everyone, welcome in my YouTube channel B.Sc Part 1st CS Optional Semester 1st NEP Course title Basic of C Programming. Now we are going to discuss here the compilation process in C, which contains a series of steps that translate source code which are written in high language, that means C programming language, into machine code. So the compilation process is generally divided into several stages which will perform a specific task. So these are as follows. First, pre-processing. Input for that pre-processing stage is that the C source code with extension .c files, and it will generate the output, the pre-processed source code. What is the task for that pre-processing? Right, so tasks are as follows. It handles macro expansion, for example hash define, hash include, hash ifdef and hash if. It also expand inline function and replaces constant with their values. Third, result. The output is modified source code file with all preprocessor directives executed, which produce a code that is ready for the next stage. Then what is the next stage? Before that, I would like to give the example for that pre-processing. For example, here hash define max 100. So int array of max. So in that, the preprocessor replace the max with 100 in the entire source code. Second stage is the compilations, which include the parsing and the syntax analysis. Then what is the input for that compilation stage? So input is the preprocessed source code, which is generated by before pre-processing stage, and it will generate the output intermediate code, that means assembly code or low level language. So the task for that compilation, मग कोणकोणते टास्क आहेत compilation stage साठी? तर compilers translate the pre-processed source code into an intermediate representation, usually assembly or machine code. So it performs lexical analysis and syntax analysis. That means what is meant by lexical? So breaking the code into tokens. टोकन जे आहे त्याच्यामध्ये कोड जो आहे तो ब्रेक करणे. सिंटॅक्स ॲनालिसिस म्हणायचं झालं तर काय आहे नेमकं? सो इट विल चेक इफ द कोड इज फॉलोज द ग्रामॅटिकल स्ट्रक्चर. कोणत्या ग्रामॅटिकल स्ट्रक्चरनुसार तो कोड आहे का, त्या कोडनं फॉलो केलं आहे का ते पाहिलं जातं. म्हणजेच काय, इट चेक फॉर द सिंटॅक्स एरर. द कोड इज नाव इन द फॉर्म ऑफ assembler which can understand. For example, as in the case of compilation stage, suppose the line integer x is equal to 10, म्हणजे x ची व्हॅल्यू 10 आहे. So would be passed into a tokenized format that represents a variable declarations and assignment. Third stage, which having the name assembly, and it has an input which can be generated in compilation process. That means assembly code which is generated by the compiler, right, and it will display the output or give the output. means काय, तर ऑब्जेक्ट कोड जे आहे मशीन कोड इन बायनरी फॉर्म. सो टास्क फॉर, मग टास्क काय आहे असेंब्लीसाठी, त्या स्टेजसाठी? द असेंब्लर ट्रान्सलेट द असेंब्ली लँग्वेज इनटू मशीन कोड, और वी कॅन ऑल्सो से दॅट द ऑब्जेक्ट कोड इट जनरेट्स मशीन इन्स्ट्रक्शन्स. मग ते मशीन इन्स्ट्रक्शन हे जनरेट करत असतं that are architecture specific, and these instructions can be executed by the CPU. Next, the assembler also generate a symbol table which map variable name to memory allocations. For example, as in the case of, if the assembly code is something like MOVX 10, the assembler would convert it into the binary machine code, that means the specific to the architectures. For example x86. For linking stage जे आहे त्याच्यामध्ये इनपुट असणार ते ऑब्जेक्ट फाईल which was generated by the assembly. Output, it will display the output, the executable file, that means the .exe, म्हणजे ऑब्जेक्ट फाईलचं रूपांतर जे आहे ते आता .exe मध्ये केलं जाणार. मग what are the tasks to the linking stage which are in the compilation process. So the linker take the object code, जो object code आहे, and it combines with libraries which will be static or dynamic to produce an executable program. It resolves external references. It includes the functions or the variable that are defined in other files and libraries. So it also allocates the address to variable. Variable ला address जो आहे तो allocate करणे किंवा functions ला. The linker can also optimize the program by removing unused code. नको असलेला कोड हा eliminate केला जातो. That means dead code will be eliminated in this stage. So if multiple objects files are involved, म्हणजे ऑब्जेक्ट फाइल्स जास्त असलेल्या फाइल्स जर इन्वॉल्व असतील, सो द लिंकर कंबाईन देम इनटू अ सिंगल एक्झिक्युटेबल लायब्ररी. मग ते जास्त फाइल्स असतील ऑब्जेक्ट तर ते कंबाईन केलं जातं. फॉर एक्झाम्पल, सपोज यू हॅव अ मेन डॉट सी अँड मेन डॉट सी फंक्शन डॉट सी. आफ्टर द कंपायलेशन ऑफ दिस फाइल्स, मग ह्या सगळ्यांचं कंपायलेशन झाल्यानंतर into object files the linker combine them. मग लिंकरचं काय काम असणार आहे, त्या फाईल ज्या आहे ते कंबाईन करणं, एकत्र करणं, and resolves any references between them. Fifth stage of that compilation process is loading. That means you have to here execution for execution preparation, and input is the link executable and output which will be the running program in memory. memory मध्ये प्रोग्राम जो आहे तो रन करणे. Then what are the tasks behind the loading stage? So the loader loads the executable into memory. It also set up an environment, loading share libraries if needed. म्हणजे गरज असेल तर लायब्ररी मध्ये ते लोड शेअर केलं जातं. The loader adjusts address as needed for the program execution. Address जो आहे तो adjust केला जातो, and it will be prepared for the CPU execute. Then summary for that compilation process in C. So the first one, which is a pre-processing, which handles the hash include, hash define and conditional compilation. The second stage is compilations that translate the pre-processed code into assembly or intermediate codes and check syntax. Third one, assembly, which convert assembly code to machine code. That means the object files. Linking, it means it combines object file into an executable and resolve external references. Loading, load the executable into memory and prepare for its execution. So the entire process is necessary. म्हणजे हे संपूर्ण जी प्रोसेस जी आहे ती नेसेसरी आहे कशासाठी, टू टर्न ह्युमन रिडेबल सी कोड इनटू अ प्रोग्राम. म्हणजे आपण ज्या लिहिलेल्या भाषेत इंग्लिशमध्ये जे लिहिलेला कोड आहे त्याचं सगळ्याचं रूपांतर करण्यासाठी ही जी प्रोसेस ही अतिशय महत्त्वाची आहे. सी कोड इनटू अ प्रोग्राम that the computer can execute. So next I would like to explain very important parts. C program structures. It is refers to the organization of the code which includes the components and syntax that make up a complete C program. So below is the general structure for C program, which included the hash include stdio.h. That means it is a preprocessor directive, global variable declarations, integer main functions. That means the execution starts from here, and the local variable declarations, for example printf, which having the statements and expression to display. That means these are the output statements. Printf hello world /n return 0. That means the return statements end of main functions, right? So the additional functions, if any, जर कोणते फंक्शन्स आपण त्याच्यात लिहिणं असेल तर ते तिथे येऊ शकतात. सो द फर्स्ट वन, सो दीज आर ऑल अबाउट द सी स्ट्रक्चर. म्हणजे अशा पद्धतीनं स्ट्रक्चर आहे. त्याच्यामधलं फर्स्ट जो आहे कॉम्पोनंट्स ऑफ सी प्रोग्राम, प्री प्रोसेसर डिरेक्टिव्स. सो these are instructions to the preprocessors which runs before the actual compilation. So they usually start with the hash symbol. बघा इथं तुम्ही बघू शकता हॅश सिम्बॉलने हे स्टार्ट्स होतं. सो common preprocessor directives include, that means the hash include for including libraries and hash define for defining constants, right? So the hash define is used for the defining constants, and the hash include which for including libraries. So for that purpose, for example, for the preprocessor directive is the hash include stdio.h. Directive tells द प्री प्रोसेसर, म्हणजे हे जे आता यूज केलेलं आहे पहा इथं हॅश इन्क्लूड stdio.h, इट टेल्स म्हणजे काय सांगतं प्री प्रोसेसर, टू इन्क्लूड समाविष्ट करून घेणे द स्टँडर्ड इनपुट आउटपुट हेडर फाईल विच प्रोव्हाइड्स फंक्शन लाईक प्रिंटएफ. अशा फाईल्स इन्क्लूड करून घ्या की जे प्रोव्हाइड करणार आहेत आपल्याला फंक्शन्स जस्ट लाईक अ प्रिंटएफ. लक्षात आलं. सी प्रोग्रॅमिंगमध्ये प्रिंटएफ हे प्रोव्हाइड करण्यासाठी stdio.h ही फाईल इन्क्लूड करून घ्या. सेकंड वन इज द ग्लोबल डिक्लेरेशन्स. इट इज ऑप्शनल पार्ट्स, सो दिस कॅन इन्क्लूड ग्लोबल व्हेरिएबल्स and functions that are available to all parts of your program. While global, it can be declared outside of the function. फंक्शनच्या बाहेर जे आहे ते ग्लोबल व्हेरिएबल डिक्लेअर केलं जातं. फॉर एक्झाम्पल इंटीजर ग्लोबल var इक्वल टू 10. नेक्स्ट वन द मेन फंक्शन. So it is the entry point of your C program. That means the execution of the program begins from this main function. So it can optionally return an integer. Typically 0 indicate successful execution. For example, int main return 0. So local variables, that means within the main functions you have to write here, or other functions. So variables that are declared inside of functions, which is known as a local variable. That means local variables are declared in main function. So they can only be accessed, म्हणजे ॲक्सेस केले जातात कुणाकडून, विदिन द स्कोप ऑफ दॅट फंक्शन. त्या फंक्शनच्या स्कोपमध्येच ते ॲक्सेस केले जाऊ शकतात. फॉर एक्झाम्पल इंटीजर मेन int x equal to 10, that means it is a local variable because it is included within that function, right? Which functions? Integer main. And printf my x ची व्हॅल्यू इथं प्रिंट केलेली आणि रिटर्न 0. नेक्स्ट स्ट्रक्चरमध्ये स्टेटमेंट आणि एक्सप्रेशन ही असू शकतात. सो स्टेटमेंट्स आर द इन्स्ट्रक्शन्स. मग काय असतात? और ऑपरेशन्स परफॉर्म इन अ प्रोग्राम. फॉर एक्झाम्पल प्रिंटf, assignment statements or mathematical calculations. So the expression evaluate to a value which will be a part of your statements. For example, printf hello world, that means it will display, printf functions will display the output statements. 6 return statements. So in main end the execution of your program, that means returns a value to the OS. That means a return value of 0 typically indicates the successful execution of your program. So example is return 0, that means it is the end of your main function. Additional function, मग हे पण ऑप्शनल आहे, ते म्हणते स्ट्रक्चरमध्ये असू शकतं, तुम्ही काय काय यूज करता त्याच्यावर अवलंबून आहे. सो द सी प्रोग्राम कॅन कंटेन ॲडिशनल फंक्शन्स that are called from the main functions, or other you can also say that to perform a specific task. म्हणजे user defined function एखादा असेल तर ते additional function आणि ते optional आहे. The function should be declared or defined before they are used. ते यूज करायच्या आधी ते डिफाईन करणं किंवा डिक्लेअर करणं गरजेचं असतं. Here will be the example void greet which will display the output statements. Printf welcome to C programming, right? So after that call to additional functions and returning 0. So the complete example of simple C program काय असू शकेल? So the hash include stdio.h which means the include standard input output library which also contains the global variable which having the global var in this program global var equals to 100. So it will be display message. So the functional declaration which is optional now, and here is the main program. That means in that we are going to declare the local variable, right? So the integer num equal to 25, and the printf functions all this print the message to the screen. That means it will call to the another function by using the display message function. So and after that you have to return from the main functions return 0. So here will be the outside of integer main functions function definition. So the void display message which will print the value output statement, so this is an additional function, right? So for that purpose, for in the case of the C programming structures, keys to remember. So first one, which is the preprocessor directive, which will be begin with the hash. For example, hash include, or you can also the hash define. Some functions you can use in your C program. So it is typically structured around functions, right? So the main function is the starting point your program, because the compilation begins from that functions. You can also use the variable. There are two types of variable, local and the global, right? So the which can be globally or locally within a function or outside the function you can also use. So which are the functions which are used in functions? The local variables you have to declared in the main function, right? So the statements, these are the instructions that tell the program, म्हणजे ते प्रोग्रामला सांगतं काय what to do, such as printf for output and assignment for variable initialization. So thank you so much for joining my video today. Thank you so much.